Evening, everyone. Welcome to the February Electric Railroaders Association meeting. Just so you know, the next meeting is on Friday, March 17th. That presenter will be Jeff Ehrlitz, our chief editor of the Bulletin. I don't have his program yet, but you will see it shortly. He also has an excellent program. So let me see, in terms of announcements, our 2023 Electric Railroaders Association convention is going to be in Portland, Oregon and Seattle, Washington. The registrations are going apace. We have to receive all the registrations by June 3rd. We are approaching half registered. So if you want to go, I suggest you go to the erausa.org webpage and you can register online, or we did send a flyer, I believe in the January issue we will resend, but the sooner you book, the better. Once we are full, we are full. So please book ASAP. We did sell out last year. I expect we will sell out this year. Mike Glicken, our treasurer, do you have any announcements before I introduce our speakers? Mike, any announcements? Mike, you need to unmute. Oh, maybe I have to, hold on. I have to ask you to unmute. I guess there's not a way I can, hold on one second.
I'll get it, Bob.
You'll get it, please. Okay, great.
Okay, Mike, you should be able to.
Mike, go ahead.
You basically spoke towards the possibility of selling out on the San Diego convention. Excuse me, the Pacific Northwest convention.
Right. And Paul Grether, who you just heard, and Mike are working on a May 2024 trip to the Benelux countries, but the more details on that will be coming out in the fall. All right. With that, I would like to introduce tonight's speakers. Our speakers will be Eric Oszustowicz, assisted by his wife, Mary, and with some commentary as needed by Jack May. They all have made several trips to Ukraine. Eric's been requested to show photographs of the tram systems in Ukraine, in addition to views of its metros and mainline railroads. Eric and his wife, Mary, and for part of it also Jack May, traveled extensively throughout Ukraine in 2017, 2018. The program will start in the capital, Kyiv. Kyiv is home to an extensive tram, metro, and trolleybus system, all which will be covered. Then it's on to Lviv, Ukraine's westernmost large city, followed by the historic Black Sea port city of Odessa. Then head east to Ukraine's second city, Kharkiv, home to a large tram system in addition to a metro system. While in Kharkiv, an MTV 82 tram car was chartered that was arranged by Jack May and taken around most of the tram system. This tram car, one of only 4 operable MTV 82s that were left in the world, was destroyed in the February 2022 start of the currently raging war. As you all know, February 24th is the one-year anniversary of the start of that conflict. Other cities to be visited briefly include Dnipro, Kamyansk, Mykolaiv, and Zaporizhia, to name a few. Time permits, enough participants are still present. At least 100 videos taken during Eric and Mary's travels during 2022 in the U.S. will be shown, including videos of unique Florida East Coast Railway, CTA's 75th anniversary, in addition to other subjects. This presentation is being recorded. We're making, there are 2 requests made by the speakers. There will be no breaks. This will be a nonstop presentation. It will be a minimum of 3 hours. Again, if you miss something, you'll be able to get it on the recording, which we usually provide within 10 days to 2 weeks after the program. The other change, just for this meeting that was requested by the speaker, is there will be no member-to-member chat. All chat questions and requests will come to me as a moderator. I will look for a suitable break in Eric and Mary's and Jack's presentation to ask the question. I may group your questions. My apologies if I don't get to each and every question. I try to pick the questions that are of most general interest. So with that, Eric,
Yep.
Mary, Jack, Eric, the podium, the Zoom podium is yours. So take it away.
Okay, let me share my screen.
Hi, Mary.
Hi.
Are we good, Bob?
Yeah, I'm not seeing a picture yet.
Okay, give me a second. Let me get out, go back in.
Okay. Okay, see blue screen. Thumbnails. No,
Are we
I
good?
see. I love Kyiv. I think we're good. You just need to make
Sure.
it full screen.
Right.
Is it full screen or are you going to make it full screen?
Give me 1 second.
Okay.
The bar at the top is covering up the full screen thing.
The bar at the, oh, you're talking about the, with people's pictures across the top? Is that
Yeah.
what you're talking? Paul, you unmute. We do something about that?
You're trying to move the Zoom bar?
The people's icons, usually they're off to the side. For some reason, they're on top.
I got it. I moved it.
You moved it? Okay.
We're good? We're full screen?
Yeah, we're good. As long as, yes.
Okay. All right. This is in Kyiv. This is the Maidan. This is where everything started on November 12th, 2013, with the protest, and it went on until February 22nd, 2014. This is Independence Square. All right. Kyiv has a large trolley bus system. As a matter of fact, it's the largest in the world. Moscow used to have the largest one in the world, but they abandoned their entire system from 2014 to 2020. Moscow formerly had a 1,700 trolley bus system with 101 routes. They abandoned it all. So Kyiv is now the largest in the world, followed by Minsk. This particular trolley bus is Ukrainian built by a company called Bogdan. The model number is a T90-110. This was delivered on May 24th, 2012. And in the background, you have St. Michael's Golden Dome Monastery. The structure was actually built in the 1990s, opened in 1999. The original structure was destroyed by the Soviets in the 1930s. The original structure was built from 1713 to 1719. And they also have non-articulated trolley buses. This one's also built by Bogdan. That's a model 70-110. Same bus, but showing some of the magnificent architecture from Kyiv. Now, the major reason we went there at the time was to see the trolley system. It's changed a lot since we were there. A lot of these T3s are now out of service, but this is a 1983 T3. It's a T3 SU built for the Soviet Union. It's a match set. It's a 6023 and 6001. This is at the main station in Kyiv. This is a map of the system, but this whole section here, if you can see the cursor that goes across the Dnipro River, has been abandoned. So it's basically two different systems. You have a system on the west side of the Dnipro River, which is here, and a system on the east side of the Dnipro River. We're going to take a look at the system on the west side first. Now, where my cursor is down here is where the main train station is. We're going to start there. This is a Ukrainian-built trolley. It's called a KT-3UA. This particular one was built in August 2011. It was built by a company called KZET, a division of the Antonov aircraft manufacturer. Factories in Kyiv. They have 14 of these, 13 are left in service as of this month. This is called a K1M8. Only 4 of these were built for Kyiv. This particular trolley was delivered on April 28th, 2012. It was built by a firm called Tatra Yug. It's a Ukrainian firm producing trams since 1993. Tatra co-founded the firm and handed their expertise and technology to the new firm. Okay, these are their newest trams. This is a PESA 71-414 Foxtrot. This particular one we received on the property on December 9th, 2016. It's a PESA twist car. They operate in 6 cities. These are made in Poland. Now, the system itself in Kyiv has 21 routes. Currently, as of this month, they have 225 cars in service, 140 miles a route. Horse tramways started in Kyiv on August 11th, 1891, electrified from 1892 to 1896. The first 2 electric trams for the city were built at a factory near Moscow based on American designs. It's 1524, the system is 1524 millimeter gauge. It's the 4th electric tramway in Europe to open after Berlin, Budapest, and Prague. All right, back to the T3s. That's a T3SU built in 1983. Another T3, this is a 1987 built T3. This is ex-Prague, number 7217. It was received in Kyiv on September the 13th, 2016. A lot of these T3s are now out of service. This picture was taken in 2017. They got a lot more PESA Foxtrots since we were there. And with the hostilities going on, they've lost a few trolleys. This one was built in 1986. It's another T3SU. This is just outside the main station on a place, the street is called Zeliananska Street. This is one of the oldest T3s on the property at the time from 1977. That's a T3SU. This one is also out of service currently as of this month. You also have these K1s built in 2008. The K1s are based on the Tatra T6B5. These are Ukrainian built at the Tatra South Factory in Dnipro, 65 in service in Kyiv and Zaporizhia. The ones in Kyiv are number 320 to 328. Most of these are out of service now. Only number 324 is left since this picture was taken in 2017. Another KT-3UA on the left and the rear of a K1 here. Another KT-3UA. This one has been on the property since August of 2010. Most of these are still in service. Should be noted that there's 2 lines that go to the station, lines 3 and 4. It's part of the express tramway. Once you get away from this area and go to the west, both those lines are on a private right-of-way. A line 2 is further out. So the lines 1, 2, and 3 of the express tramway lines on the western side of the city. There's another 2 on the eastern side of the city. Here's where the lines from the express tramway meet the regular city system. This is a line 3 car, Pace Foxtrot 759, together with car 5954. That's a T3 from 1987. That's X-Prog number 7214. Another Foxtrot. This one was received on the property on December 15th, 2016. Another T3 SU. This is from 1981. Currently, this car is in dead storage. Dead storage means it's probably never going to come back. Kyiv has listed their current fleet as either out of service, in service, or dead storage. Dead storage cars probably never come back. Another Foxtrot, another KT3UA. All right, now we're going to visit a different part of the city. Like I said, this section down here along the Dnipro and crossing the Dnipro, that's gone. But we're going to check out the northern section. There is a metro station here called Tova, and it feeds these lines that go to the north of the city. 16, this number 4 line has been renumbered. It's the 11, the 16, the 7, and the 19 will go to the north here. This is upstairs from the Tova station. This is Tova Square. The lines from here used to go south and along the Dnipro River and across the river, but this is as far as they go now, besides going to the station, but that's further inland. This is 5580. It's a 1985 T3 car actually built for Prague. That's X-Prog 7125. It was received in Kyiv, June 29th, 2016. Now let's talk a little about the T3s. The T3s were built for the Eastern Bloc in the former Soviet Union. 13,991 of cars just like this were built, along with 122 trailers. Then you had the T4s, which are the narrow gauge version of these. Another 2,635 of those were built for a total of 16,748 cars. The only trolley built that even comes close to these numbers are the KTM5s built in the Soviet Union. There were 14,991 of those. The T3s, the first prototype was built in 1960. That ran around for about 2 years. The production line started in 1962. Between the time of the prototype and the T3 production line started, they were still producing T2s. Okay. Now we're going to start to walk north. This is on the 11 line. All right, car 5770 was a 1981 built T3 SU. SU is for Soviet Union. And this car is currently out of service. Car 5991 is still in service to this day. Another T3 SU built in 1987. As of December of 2022, all the trams and trolley buses were laid up due to lack of electricity. I'm not sure if any of the lines have come back to date. $59.67 is still in service. It's a 1986 car. It's on the 18 line. It's coming south. There's 59.54 again, the back of 57.85.
Eric, there's one question or really a clarification. I think most people know, but one person, I think Phil Burton asked, all of these T3 cars are based on the PCC, on the American PC or Euro PCC designs, or what is?
These cars are basically PCCs.
Right.
They're
American.
mechanically, they're similar to PCCs.
Right. And the numbers you gave earlier were for the T3s of how many were built, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And together with the T4s, which are the narrow gauge version of these, 16,748 of these cars were built.
And just
Both.
by comparison, I think North American PCCs, I think only about 5,000 were built. So this was
Right.
actually a much bigger product, right? Okay.
Yeah, from 1962 to 1989, Tatra basically put out one of these cars every day. Every
Wow.
day. On some days they put two out. So the production line was just constantly going for 27 years. It's really unbelievable. The original T3s, the original design had a split window down the middle here, but they settled on later on with the split windows on the side, the three-piece windows.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, the first one built, the prototype 6101, was scrapped in 1985. But the first production car, 6102 for Prague, both were built for Prague. That one survives in Prague and it occasionally operates.
Oh, Eric, one more question, which
Yeah.
actually is a question I have. You'd mentioned that part of the system, that river crossing and that part that was abandoned, was there a metro extension or why was that part of the network discontinued?
Well, the metro does go across the river, but way to the north of where that bridge was.
Uh-huh. Was the track in bad shape or is the reason even known why that abandonment?
Well, there is a metro line down there, but there's probably many reasons because the system itself is much smaller than it was, let's say in the 1960s. You know, as the same as with a lot of systems all over the Soviet Union. As a matter of fact, one of the systems in Russia was just completely abandoned recently. But
one of the systems, what do you mean, metro or tram?
No, one of the tram systems in Russia was just recently abandoned in totality. It wasn't a big system. I forget the name of it.
Right. And the other question is, what's the gray box over the line number? Like in the picture right now, 50, that thing, yeah, what is that? It's Nicholas Fink asking. That's right, yep.
Not all of them have that. I'm not really sure, to tell you the truth. It might
Okay.
have something to do with switch movement.
Oh,
I'm
I
not
just
really
got
sure.
an answer from Greg Katz, power cable connection,
Okay.
big box. Okay,
Oh,
very
okay.
good. Thank you. All right.
All right, this is a typical interior of a T3. This is the interior of 5836. This is a T3 SU, built in 1983. I should mention also the last T3 built was also built for Prague. It was built in 1989, serial number 179382, and that's Prague car number 7255. All right, now we're gonna head to the other side of the river, where Mary and I actually walked. The metro goes across here to a place called Darnitsia, and we basically walked this entire line took us about 3 or 4 hours. We walked this entire line up here. And up here, where my cursor is, that's the other express tramway. The lines 4 and 5 run there. And this green line that goes around like this is a commuter line. It does a loop around the entire city. And during the rush hours, that commuter line only runs during the rush hours. And when those commuter trains come in, there's just tram after tram after tram of those people pouring out of the commuter train onto those trams. And this whole area here is all high-rise apartment buildings. We're going to see pictures of that coming up.
I should mention that the tram line for the last stop, where Eric had his cursor, only runs in the rush hours, because if the trains are not running, there's no point of running the trams all the way to that station. So
Right.
they're cut back one station prior to that, except for rush hours.
Yeah. So of course we went there during the rush hour, late afternoon rush hour. We'll see pictures of that. All right, now we're walking. We've just crossed the Dnipro River on the on the Metro line number 1 to a station called Ernitsia, and we start to walk north here. This is car 5643. Just give me 1 second. 5640, I'm sorry. Just give me 1 second. That's a 1980 built T3 SU. This car is currently out of service. What happens a lot in the Ukrainian systems, especially here and in Kharkiv, which we're going to get to later, and even in a place like Zaporizhia, the original cars that they had, they basically run them into the ground, and they get secondhand trolleys from pretty much mostly Prague and some cities in Germany. But we'll get into that later. Now, second. All right. This is called a T3UA-3 Kashtan car. They only have 6 of these. They're numbered 600 to 605. 601 was in service when we were there, but it's now in dead storage. This one is still running. These are built by KZET, that Antonov company. Another T3. This is this is a secondhand from a place in the former Czechoslovakia. The city is called Most Litvinov, and this is X car 274. They got it secondhand in Kyiv in January of 2014. It's a 1985 built car. This car is X Prague 7155. This car is now in dead storage. Like all these shots in Kyiv were taken in 2017, September and October of 2017. The advertisements on this tram is for a sports betting outfit. This is a K1. They had 9 of these. Some of them were on the west side lines. This is one of them on the east side lines, east of the Dnipro River lines. They had 9 of these. This is they were numbered 320 to 328. This car is now in dead storage, as with most of the other K1s except for one. All right. This is a T6B5SU. They had a lot of these. They were numbered 001 to 077 and 301 to 313. This is a 1988 built car. This is basically the successor to the T3. This car is currently in dead storage. 5651 is an ex-Prague car, formerly 7082. This is north of the Chernoviskasta area. This car is out of service too. Now, these minibuses, they run all over Ukraine in the major cities. They're called marshrutkas, which means routed taxi cab. They're on specific routes like this. The Caribbean island of Grenada has a similar operation, although those are basically large minivans in Grenada, but they're like in Grenada, they're lines 1 through 6. But as you can see, there's a little more than 6 lines here. This is the Route 415. These are always packed and they run everywhere in major cities in Ukraine. They run very frequently. They get to the little places where regular buses can't go. All right, that 5608 is ex-Prague 7228. All right, this is another T6B5SU. Of the 77 cars that they had, only 9 are left. So these were basically run into the ground and they're basically cannibalizing other cars to keep the existing ones running. All right, now we're gonna go check out the 4 and 5 lines. Now the blue line here is Metro Line 2. We'll get into the Metro later. The yellow line is the commuter line. It basically does a loop around the entire city. We'll see a bigger, wider shot of the map later. But the T4 and the T5 are here. T4 ends here. And from the top of this U all the way down here, this line is on private right-of-way, and it's surrounded by huge apartment buildings. And we're going to take a look at that. These are the express trams on the east side of the Dnipro River. All right, we're on the private right-of-way here. It's car 5659. That's a 1986 car, X-Prog 7187. This car is out of service also. You can see the apartment buildings in the background. 5634, that's a 1983 car, X-Prog 7046. Car is out of service. That's another X-Prog car, that's X-Prog 7067, out of service. As you can see, it's in the late afternoon. These cars run every 2 or 3 minutes. There's some 2-car trains. In the afternoon, they run south empty, and when they go north, they're packed full of people, you know, packed to the rafters. And this is a southbound. This is part of a 2-car train. It's car 6006. This is X-Prog 7184. This is a T3 from 1986. When this gets to the commuter station, people just pour on, and it's really insane to watch. There's one of the T3 UAs, -3s, the Kashtan cars. This car is currently in dead storage, which means it's probably never going to run again. But the other 5 of these cars are in service. There's your 2-car train running empty to go pick up all the people waiting at the commuter station. All right, one more shot of a trolley bus. That's a Bogdan T70110. These are numbered, this particular group is numbered 3351 to 3397. This particular one was delivered April the 4th, 2013. You also have a pretty good sized bus system. And this is the largest market in Kyiv. It's the Bessarabsky market. It's been rehabilitated, but it was built from 1910 to 1912. There's also a funicular. A lot of Kyiv is basically on a really high hill. Yeah, multiple hills. This is at the Postova station. Up at the top is the Mikhailovska station. Remember that big church we saw at the beginning, St. Michael's? St. Michael's is near the top of this funicular. The funicular opened May 20th, 1905, goes up 781 feet, 36% grade, 3 feet, 11¼ inch gauge. This is the 4th generation of cars. This is called Class FK80. The original cars ran from 1905 to 1928. The 2nd generation ran from 1928 to 1958 until being replaced by these in 1984. Okay. All right. Now let's take a look at the Kyiv Metro. This basically reads how it began, and this reads history of the Kyiv Metro. Opened in 1960, November 6, 1960 to be exact. Initially, it was 5 stations long, 3.26 miles. It was the 3rd system in the USSR after Moscow and St. Petersburg. Today, 824 cars on 130 trains, 1520 millimeter is the gauge. 825 volts DC is the voltage, 3 lines, 52 stations. The original cars that ran here from 1960 were sent to St. Petersburg in 1969 and replaced with new cars. It's built in the tradition of Soviet stations. Soviet metros. This is the Zloty Vorota station or Golden Gate station. This is one of the original stations. Yeah, the Golden Gate was the original entrance to Kyiv. Same station. At every station, in the yellow, it tells you where you are. The stations are 310 is the first station on this line. It goes up to 327. The red line is line 1. It goes from station 110 up here to station 127. All 3 lines, just by coincidence, somebody had OCD. All 3 lines are 28 stations long. So the number 2 line starts from station 210 to 227. We'll get, that's the Zloty Vorota station. We'll get into that later. Typical Soviet cars. You can see the headway is pretty close. This is one of the lines. The previous train left 2 minutes and 35 seconds ago, and it's 5:36 in the afternoon. This is the university station. See the statues and whatnot. The tracks are on either side of these walls. Same station. We'll get into the equipment later. This is what the whole system looks like. This is the original line, the line M1, this is the M2, M3. So it's red, green, and blue. This yellow line that goes around is the loop commuter line. Commuter line ends here. So it does a loop, but it dead ends in the station, changes ends, and goes the other way. This only runs during the rush hour, this commuter line, and it has 12 trains going around. So it's 6 trains in each direction. The blue line over here, that's the 3, 4, and 2 line, the express tram on the west side of the Dnipro, and this is the line T4 and T5 up here. Now we're going to go to the Dnipro station. On line 1, there's a lot of it that's outdoors, which is rather unusual for a Soviet system. The train has just crossed the Dnipro River. Take note of the underrunning third rail. These are the type E cars. These are the oldest cars. The oldest cars they have are from 1963 of this type. Remember, the original cars from 1960 went to St. Petersburg. These cars were built from 1963 to 1980. Currently, they're being rebuilt. So this classic Soviet front end of the subway cars will slowly be disappearing in Kyiv, at least. These are the 81-717.5 cars, the 3-part front. These are built by Metro Wagon Mash from 1978 to 1998. The cars are 63 feet, 1/8 of an inch long. They're 8 feet, 9 inches, 1/8 of an inch wide, and 11 feet, 11 3/4 inch high. They can go 56 miles an hour. This is what the type E cars look like after they've been rebuilt. They're rebuilt within Ukraine by a company called at the Kryakov wagon plant in Kremenchug. So eventually all the classic fronts will be rebuilt to look like this. But they're the same old E cars built from 1963 to 1980, just with a new front. And of course, other upgrades too, like electrical and whatnot. So these will slowly be disappearing. At least the fronts will be disappearing. And this is, if you see on the right where my cursor is, that's the bridge over the Dnipro River. You're on the west side, it's going to the east side. That's car 6325. That's an EM-501. This is one of the cars that came over from St. Petersburg in 1979. This was built in 1973, but these cars ran in St. Petersburg for 6 years before coming to Kyiv. And they have some trains that are completely wrapped. This is an EZ8 type car, 5329, built in 1971. One of the rebuilds. Second. An E-Class wrap. Now, when we were there in both 2017 and 2018, there were absolutely no problems taking pictures anywhere, including on the National Railway System, except for one place, on the Dnipro metro system. We were basically chased out of there, but we got our pictures before we left. But everywhere else, no problems taking pictures anywhere. Now, this is looking to the west. This is at the same station, but it's going into the side of basically a mountain. The next station is the Arsenalna station, which there used to be an arsenal up above. Just give me 1 second. We'll get into that station shortly. Coming up from the mountain and going across the bridge with a unique wrap with the E-cars. And the east end of the #1 line, the first line, is outdoors. We're at the Lviv station, and the trains go in this direction. Yep. And these are the transfer stations. It's a classic, if you remember on the map, it's a classic Soviet system. It's 3 lines with a triangle in the middle where all the lines meet. This is the Donetsia station. We're looking to the east. And no, we didn't go to McDonald's. This is a rebuilt train, and this is an unrebuilt train. And on the bridge, we noticed this. No, we did not go to Donetsk, and we did not go to Luhansk for good reason. But we did go to Kharkiv and Odessa in the following year. Another wrap. This is all from the Donetsia station. All right, now, just give me 1 second. This is at the Kontraktova Plosha station. The car with the flowers is numbered 1961. It was actually built in 2010. This is one of the 81-714.5M cars. And 7276 is a 1980 built car. As you can see, the system is heavily used. This is midday. Same station. This is held handheld, hence all the people are blurred. This is shot with a film camera, believe it or not. These are all scans. Now we're at the Arsenalna station. This is the deepest subway station in the world. It's 346.1 feet deep. Now, the 191st Street station is only 173 feet deep. Both are well above sea level, 191st Street station and this station. Well, in Kyiv, it's actually above river level. But since both stations are basically in the side of a mountain, that's why they're so deep. I don't know if it's a coincidence, but the 191st Street station is actually half as deep, exactly half as deep as this station. I don't know if somebody in the Soviet Union at the time wanted to double the 191st Street station, but I don't know. But anyway, To get down to the platform from the street, it takes 5 minutes. Imagine the Lexington Avenue and 53rd Street station with the escalators there. Imagine those escalators are a little bit longer and there's 2 of them. So you go up one of those 53rd and Lex escalators, then lo and behold, there's another one. So that's how deep this station is. It takes 5 minutes to get to the platform. This is the station itself. And this is someplace at the time we did not want to go. We still don't want to go there. But at the time, the trains were still running between Kyiv and Moscow. Shortly after hostilities began, Ukrainian government blew up the railroad lines to keep the Russians from using those railroad lines to bring supplies in. But anyway, this is the main station in Kyiv in September of 2017. This is the arrival board. As you can see, there's a few trains. And this is 9:30 at night. As you can see, there's a few people waiting for trains. This is the main station in Kyiv. Now, also in that station, you have commuter trains which end at a portion of the station which ends at bumping blocks. Okay, just give me 1 second. Now let's talk about the Ukrainian railways. 1,520 millimeter gauge, 23,000 kilometers, 8,000 passenger cars, 1,700 stations, has different voltages along the way, 3,000 volt DC, 25,000 volt AC. And of those 23,000 kilometers, 44.3% was electrified as of 2017. So we're a little behind in this country with electrification. But anyway, this is an ER. The P in Cyrillic is an R. So that's an ER9E590. These are actually built in Latvia, in Riga, at the EMU railcar plant of Riga. The company was called Rigas Vagonmuvis Rudnika. It shut down in 2017.
Eric, there was a question at the main train stations from Alan Schneider. How many tracks are in the main train station?
Well, look at here. This is
21.
Well, there's more. You see
more.
the tracks still go this way. All right. But this is the dead end portion of the station. This is where the commuter trains come in a bumping block. The intercity portion, the through trains, are on our left. I hear somebody talking in the background. All right. This was actually built by the Skoda Works. These were built from 1963 to 1972. It's a CH-S4 locomotive. 232 of these were built. The front ends look much different. This is a rebuilt front end. All right. These were built by CKD. It's a CHME3. It's a 6-axle locomotive. 8,200 of these were produced. This is basically their version of an SD40 in the former Soviet Union. 8,200 produced from 1963 to 1994. They were used all over the Eastern Bloc and elsewhere. CKD built them, which CKD stands for Tesco Moravska Kolbendantek, built in Ostrava in the Czech Republic. Now, believe it or not, that company is Innoconn Trams. Kyiv bought 10 of these sets. They're Hyundai Rotem sets. This is an HRCS2. That's number 7. These were delivered from 2011 to 2012. And these are basically used on the marquee intercity lines, like between Kyiv and Lviv, Kyiv and Kharkiv, and basically along that corridor. I don't remember seeing these in Odessa. This is what a ticket looks like. We bought a ticket to travel from Kyiv, which is this in Cyrillic, to Lviv, which is this in Cyrillic. September 28th, train departed at 6:52. It was a very interesting ride. It was on one of those Hyundai Rotem cars sets. And this is the main train station in Lviv. At the beginning of hostilities in February and March of 2022, this is the station where all those scenes of people trying to get on trains to Poland took place. This is the station. Now, while I was there, this is in 2017, I was taking pictures all over the place. Nobody said a word, everybody waved, everybody said hello. And if they found out you were American, they invited you to their house, literally. That's a CHS2 built by Skoda Works from 1958 to 1976. This is not the original front end. They've all been rebuilt. Now, these are the locomotives I was looking for. That is called a VL80T. You see, it looks like there's a B and an N here. That the B, what looks like a B is a V, and what looks like an N is an L. VL stands for Vladimir Lenin. So these locomotives were built in tribute and named after Vladimir Lenin. So this is a VL80. 1,804 of these were built from 1961 to 4,921 of these were built from 1961 to 1980. 25 kV AC, built by a company called NEVZ. The Novocherkassk electric locomotive plants, now part of Transmash Holding. The factory is in Russia, in the Rostov area, which is about 2 hours to the east of Mariupol. As of 2017, 80% of all cargo in the former Soviet Union was hauled by NEVZ locomotives. All right. Now, this is called an M62. These were all over the former Soviet Union. This is a single section M62. They come in double and triple sections. 7,164 sections for 5,231 locomotives were built. These are Ukrainian built from 1962. You can find these in Cuba and North Korea. These were built at a factory in Luhansk, which has since been destroyed and looted post 2014. So no more locomotives will be coming out of there, at least for now. And here it is, about to pull a passenger train. These are diesels, of course. Okay. This is a two-section M62. Later on, we'll see videos of this thing taking off. Another one of those switching locomotives. Okay, now these ran all over Ukraine and the Soviet Union. That's a CHS8, Skoda Works built from 1983 to 1989. 82 of these were built, 25 kV AC. These are capable of 110 miles an hour. Take note, the articulation here. Or a two-section locomotive, I should say. BN40, it means VL40. The front has been rebuilt. These are Ukrainian built at the Zaporizhzhia electric locomotive plant, also known as ZERZ. These were built from 2004 and up. Actually, that's the original front end. I just take that back. And this is a really old one. It's a VL10, Vladimir Lenin 10. 2,881 of these were built. These are powerful locomotives. 6,165 horsepower, capable of 62 miles an hour. They're basically meant to pull big loads. Also built by NEVZ. Side view. Now this is a VL11. These are actually built in Georgia at the Tbilisi Electric Locomotive Builder Plant. 1,338 of these were built 1975 and up. These are basically freight locomotives, 7,190 horsepower. 120 of these are upgraded every year, starting in 2012. We'll see what the upgraded locomotive looks like later on in the show. This is a prototype DMU, diesel MU. This was put in service June 24, 2014, built by KVSZ, or the Kyiv Railway Car Building Works in the Poltava region west of Kharkiv, north of Dnipro. This is a one-of-a-kind DMU. Now, these are the EPL2T EMUs. A number of these were built. These are replacing the older EMUs, which we'll see shortly. These are also built at the Luhansk plant. These were built from 2000 to 2008. There's about 40 to 50 sets of these running around. And they were replacing these. These are the classic Soviet era MUs that ran all over the Soviet Union, although they were built in Riga. At the same plant we spoke about that was shut in 2017. These were built from 1962 to 1975, and they make all the right noises. We'll see a video of one of these leaving this very station later on. But this is all in the Lviv train station, which became famous for all the wrong reasons in late February and March of 2022. This platforms like this and the platforms here. This is where all the scenes of people crowding onto trains to get into Poland climbed on the trains. All right, Lviv has an interesting tram system. That's a KT4SU built in 1982. The railway station is in the background here. We'll get more into these, as a lot of these are wrapped in advertising paint schemes. Another KT4SU. Yeah. This is the map of the system. The lines that end in the squares like this is the railway station where we just saw those pictures. The lines that end in squares are the tram lines. The lines that end in circles, like this 12 over here, those are the trolleybus lines. So there's a lot of electric traction in Lviv. And this is the official map as of 2017. And our relatives, we have relatives in Lviv which we visited. They live along the south the 8 line in the southeast portion of the city. Okay, that's a KT4D built in 1987. This is secondhand. This ran in Jera. That's in Jera, the number was 338. It was received in Lviv in February of 2008. Okay, now we're going to look at the trams basically in numerical order. I'm not going to see all the trams because they have 101 in service as of pretty much yesterday. Let's talk about the system itself. 11 lines, 22.7 miles of route. There's a lot of overlaps, so that's why it's the mileage isn't high. A lot of the routes run together. Meter gauge, as you can see. Horse tram started running here on May 5th, 1880. Electrification started May 31st, 1894, and it was completed in 1908. What's interesting here is that another express tram system was to be constructed. The construction started in 1987, but ceased in 1992. And I've been trying to research whether any of the unfinished portions of the subway exist. These cars would have ran in the subway, but I haven't been able to figure that out. Trolleybuses started running in this city on November the 27th, 1952. All right. 1004, this is the oldest car running. This is north of Zelena. This car was built in 1980. It's a KT4 SU, and it was built new for Lviv. Car 1004 again. Now what we're doing, I'm not really emphasizing, I'm showing you the tram cars, but what I'm really doing is showing you the architecture of Lviv. Lviv was basically untouched in World War I and World War II, and it's something like Vienna. Lots of old buildings, not on this grand scale as Vienna, but it's a pretty big city. So showing these to show the architecture and the trams at the same time. Car 1022, that's a 1981 KT4 SU. Anything that ends in SU as the car type was built specifically for the Soviet Union or systems in the Soviet Union. And of course, these are Tatras. This is the second oldest car in the system. Cars 1005 through 1021 were long out of service. These are the oldest cars, and they basically cannibalize the old cars to keep the newer cars running. And they get new cars from other systems. Or used cars from other systems, I should say. I'm sorry, 1006 is the second oldest car running. I'm sorry. It's 1022 again, near Shevchenko Grove. This is 1981 car. And they've rebuilt some of the KT4 SUs. At the time we were there in 2017, I would say there was about 7 or 8 of these, maybe 9. This is by the Lyshevsky Cemetery. Say that again?
Lyshevsky.
Mary pronounced it properly.
It's a famous cemetery.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Car 1096. It's a 1986 car near Teatralna. Car 1103, 1986 car east of Mitna Square. Take note of all the architecture. And on a bright sunny day, early in the spring or the fall, you get a unique type of lighting. And cars don't have to be in the sunlight to get a good picture. If you expose it properly, it's actually pretty interesting in the shade. I call it bright shade. There's a 1988 car south of Shevchenko Grove. This is the Rusalka Nisprova station. The only station I know of that's covered over like this. Shevchenko Grove again, that's a 1988 car. These are all KT4 SUs, north of Pedvalna. This is south of the suburban station, car 1145. Yeah, this is back to the cemetery again. This is the main entrance. It's actually a big tourist attraction. A lot of famous people buried here. Okay, now we get to the used cars. These are secondhand cars. Car 1151, that's a KT4D. The D stands for Deutschland. It was built for Germany. This is ex-Erfurt car 451. Just happened to be remembered 1151. There's 1151 again with one of the Marshrutkas. Car 1158 is also a KT4D, 1981 car, ex-Erfurt, car 455. This is near Zolena. This is next Jarrah car.
Yeah.
Somebody said something?
Yeah, it's me, it's Bob. Peter Strauss asks a question. I don't know. I'll post the question, but I don't know if we have an answer on that. How much of the lines, the cars, and the buildings have been destroyed in the war? Do we either know that nationally?
Lviv is in the extreme western part of Ukraine. So relatively, most of the missiles that have come to the west have hit on the outskirts of Lviv.
Mhm.
I don't really know of any of the historic areas being hit. Most of the areas around Lviv that were hit were strategic areas, like
In the military.
military targets and factories. They haven't done what they've done in the east. The indiscriminate bombing, of Kyiv, of Kharkiv, and other cities. But the distance has a lot to do with it.
Mhm.
And they use basically guided, more precise munitions to hit the areas around Lviv, if
Right.
that answers your question.
Isn't it also by hitting Lviv that it makes it too close to hitting a NATO country, and that would cause a lot more problems for the Russians?
Well, it's far enough from the Polish border where I don't think they care about that. I think it's more of distance.
Okay.
I think it's more of distance
All right.
because it's far from the Russian border.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he says, and in Kiev. Well, I guess you just answered that. It's again, they hit mainly like strategic depots. They just didn't do carpet bombing or anything like that.
But Kyiv and Kharkiv and other cities, since it's closer and artillery and other non-precise munitions can
Mhm.
be launched closer from the front lines in the Russian border.
Okay.
It's
All right.
more of a military reasons for why they haven't hit here.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome. How many do we got now, Bob?
112, 113.
Okay.
It's been pretty much 111 to 113. It's not gone up or down. So
Yeah,
good.
this is a completely foreign show, and I was really tentative about wanting to do this show, but I was asked, like on my own, I would not have done this show.
Mhm.
But-
No, it's great. I think
But
everyone.
some people don't want to see this because it's depressing. Yeah. But anyway,
Yes, I hear you. All right, keep going.
this is another KT4D from 1981, secondhand from Erfurt, car formerly numbered 472 in that city. This is Mitna Square. And 1171 again, place called Sakharova. Just look at these buildings. It's if walking all over Lviv, and this is far from downtown. This is far from the central area. And you have this architecture all over the place. I'm an architecture nut, so this is fantastic stuff. It's car 1172. This is actually ex-Venezia, another city in Ukraine that has trolleys. This is ex-Venezia number 209. That's a KT4 SU from 1988. What's that?
Vinnytsia.
Venezia. Yeah. Say it, pronounce it right?
Vinnytsia.
Venezia.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah.
We'll teach you.
All right. So this is a Ukrainian-built car. There's a factory in Lviv that was established in 2011. It's called an Electron T3L44, built in 2016. At the time, Lviv had 9 of these, numbered 1179 to 1187. So this is completely Ukrainian built. Now, they also have a trolleybus system. Now, this is an LAZ-52522 model from 1997. These are also these were also built in Lviv. This is built at the Lviv bus factory, founded May 21st, 1945, out of business October 2014. These buses were built from 1993 to 2006. They look very familiar to other trolley buses in the Soviet Union, but we'll get into that. Oh, and this is the Opera House here in the background. This is also Ukrainian built. It's an LAZ-E183D1 built in 2007. And this is a Skoda, model number 14TR11, delivered to Lviv in June of 1990. This bus is currently in dead storage. Okay, now, welcome to Kharkiv. How do you pronounce it properly?
Kharkiv.
Kharkiv, but I'm going to say Kharkiv because that's the English pronunciation. This, well, let's first say hello to Jack, May, Mary, and myself. This is an MTV 82 tram. Okay. Now, MTV stands for Moscow Tram Vaj, and the 82 comes from the fact that it was built in military factory number 82. Okay, the first one was built in 1947. The last one was built in 1961. 453 of these were built in Russia at military factory 82. The remainder were built in Riga. 1,707 of those were built from 1949 to 1961 in Riga. These were replaced by the RVZ-6. We're not going to get into that. But the bodies look like a bus, right? Looks like a GM bus, pretty much. These bodies were actually supposed to be on trolley buses, on something called an MTB, B as in Bravo, 82. But instead, the bodies were used on trolleys. Like I said, the design was appropriated from GM buses. At the time this picture was taken, there were 4 MTV 82s left operational on the planet. The first 2 days of the war, the depot where this trolley was kept, it was renumbered 844 by that time, the depot was in the northeast portion of Kharkiv. First, the power plant that supplied electricity to the trolleys was hit, and later on, the actual trolley barn was hit. And the roof of the building collapsed in on this, and the entire front was basically caved in, which was pretty scary considering that we rode this same trolley 4 years before, 3.5 years before. The trolley on the left is of course a T3. We'll get into that later. But let's go for a ride. But before we do that, this is the crew. The person standing behind Mary is the tram operator. And these 3 people here, the younger people, actually work for the Kharkiv transit system, so to speak. And they were basically happy to see this thing running. Now, when we showed up, they had one of these and another trolley waiting for us. They were apparently expecting about 40 people. They didn't realize that only 3 of us were coming. Jack May arranged this tram trip well in advance of our arrival. He arranged everything. If it wasn't for Jack May, this trip wouldn't have occurred. So we show up with 3 people and they look confused. Where's everybody else? And so we said, just us. They shrugged and said, okay. They apparently think we're millionaires or something. Yeah. The woman here, she's never traveled more than 10 miles out of Kharkiv because travel is quite expensive and It's just the way things were at the time.
Her name is Nastia or Anastasia, and she is really a streetcar enthusiast. And I was so surprised when she said Kharkiv was the only system that she ever saw. But the
Right.
people are a bit poor and they can't really travel much on what they earn.
Right. And we took it around the system. Kharkiv is basically an industrial city. So there is some pretty interesting architecture, but most of it is residential and industrial areas. This is on the loop for the 8 line, if I remember correctly. We basically were able to stop wherever we wanted. And this in Cyrillic basically means excursion tram or excursion car.
The C is pronounced like an S, so it's excursion.
Right. We brought it down to the main train station. The main train station is to the right. We'll see that later. Just give me a second here. All right, car 3045 to the right. That's the technical designation is a T3-VPST. That's formerly from Bratislava. The original number of Bratislava was 7770. It was received in Kharkiv in October of 2017. This car is still in service. A lot of cars we're going to see were, especially in the eastern, the cars that come out of the eastern area. A lot of those were destroyed and they're out of service. It's a big university city also. Car 3014 is ex-Ostrava in the Czech Republic, or former Czechoslovakia, I should say. It was built in 1983, and the number in Ostrava was 913. This is an interior of the car with Mary. Yeah, it was, as you can see, it's got the wood floors. The seats are actually hard, but actually pretty comfortable. As you can see, it looks like the interior of a GM bus. That's what the back looks like. Again, looks like the rear of a bus. Like I said, these were meant to be trolley buses. These bodies were meant to be put on rubber wheels. Now, this is the controller here, right? Reverser. And where am I? Can everybody see the cursor? Bob, can you see the cursor?
Yes, I see
Now,
it. Yep.
This is
Yes.
this is the door operator. This means open, and this means closed. That church is really interesting. It's the Ruba-Savitsky Holy Trinity Church, also known as the Goldberg Church. It was built from 1907 to 1915. There was a Jewish businessman in Kharkiv. He converted to Christian Orthodoxy. When he became head of the Merchants Guild, he gave the church to the city as a gift. So that's the story with that church. This is far out of the central area. It's like in the middle of nowhere, in the residential area. This is the end of the 3 line. The paint scheme should look familiar if you get around. That's the Riga paint scheme. That's a Tatra T3A built in 1980. It was received in Kharkiv from Riga in March of 2014. The original Riga number was 51,199. Now, in Riga, it was numbered, like I said, 51,199. They basically just took off the 9 and made it 5119.
In Riga, it ran with the trolley pole.
Yes, yes. And as you can see, our operator is having a cigarette break here. This is in one of the residential pseudo-industrial areas, private right-of-way. The fan trip took place on September the 27th, 2018. And thank you again, Jack, for arranging this.
I enjoyed it as much as you and Mary did.
Yeah, we're going to see some of the central area later. A lot of it is in ruins now. Now, this is not an ex-Prague T6. This is a T6B5SU built specifically for the Soviet Union in 1990. When it was delivered to Kharkiv, it was numbered 1551. In the Soviet Union, these are also known as T3Ms. This is one of the few maps we can find. I'm going to zero in over here. This is the main train station here. Shortly, we're going to walk this line here. Our hotel is in this area. This is the central area, the touristy area, so to speak. Our hotel is here. The university is down here. And we walked from here, around here, down to the main train station. We picked up the tram down here. The common term tram barn is down here. Now, the east side of the city here, there's a tram barn up here. This tram barn up here, which we'll get into, this is what was destroyed on February 24th and 25th last year, and a lot of trams were destroyed here. This is the 23 line here. It's a very interesting line. It's very heavy. This tram barn is where the MTV 82 is based out of. Okay. You don't have too many of these. The 12 line doesn't run very often. Most of the lines in the city run very frequently, like 10-minute headway or less. But the 12 is basically on a 20-minute headway for most of the day. And this is unique. This isn't, you don't find too many of these around the city, but since the line doesn't run very often, they have the schedule up.
Weekday, weekend.
Yeah, this is weekday and this is weekend. Okay, now I'll start to walk the line. This is Jack here, because I ran like a maniac to get this shot. It's car 3045. That's the ex-Bratislava car again, former 7770. And this is, we're walking the line, and you can see another ex-Riga car coming up at us. Typical tram stop. Now, since there are 3 lines running here, the service was about every 5 to 7 minutes in each direction, so it was pretty nice. This is in the western part of Kharkiv. We're walking towards the main train station, which is far out of the central area. It's car 317. Second. This is on the Klochkivsky descent, basically a big hill going down. This is ex-Bratislava 7826, received in Kharkiv October 2017. It's a 1987 built car. There's car 3045 again. As you can see, there are some people with money in Kharkiv, judging by this house. It's car 301. This is also ex-Bratislava, formerly numbered 7823. This was received in Kharkiv in June of 2017. It's a 1987 car.
This was an interesting stretch of right-of-way because it was ballast with small pebbles, and we didn't see anything else like that in Kharkiv.
Right, right. It's an interesting place. It's for those that don't know, Kharkiv is in the extreme northeast of Ukraine. It's about 25 to 30 miles from the Russian border, hence why it was hit so bad during the war. and it's still being hit.
Let's see.
It's car 3014. This is at Mala Panesviska Street. That's a T3 from Ostrava. In Ostrava, it was numbered 913. 412, that's X-Prague 8094. It's a 1973 car. It was received in May of 2016 in Kharkiv. Car 47, the railroad tracks are on the other side of these former industrial buildings. You got the grain towers here, coal towers, and some really interesting industrial architecture here. This is about a 20-minute walk north of the main train station. That's X-Prague 8052, received in Kharkiv, May of 2016. Car 410, that's X-Bratislava 7793, 1987, was received in Kharkiv on June the 1st, 2017. We're heading down towards the main train station now. We're walking south. That's a northbound Route 20, car 3021. That's X-Bratislava 7750. That's a 1985 T3 received in Kharkiv, April the 2nd, 2017. 416, it's X-Bratislava 7834, 1987 built. This is at the main train station. There's a series of shots at the train station. I'm going to just go a little quicker through these. But this car is very interesting. That is X-Prague number 6215, later renumbered 5506. The T3s in Prague started at 6101. So this car is only 3 years newer than the MTV 82 we were riding. This was received in Kharkiv in June of 2013 from Prague. All right, at the station again. It's an X-Bratislava car, and here's the train station right here. We'll get closer to that later. The sun actually came out for a little while. This is a KTM 19. They had 9 of these at the time, 3101 to 3109. This particular one was placed in service in January 2007. Now, KTM stands for Kirov Motor Tram Car. 831 of these were built from 1999 to 2012. They only run in the ex-Soviet Union. All of these are now out of service. All of these. These are Russian built at the Ust-Katav wagon building plant, or UKVZ. 3063. That was received January 17, 2018. This was taken 9 months later. That's X-Bratislava 7779. This was after we left. A year later, in November 2019, this car was renumbered 707, and it's currently out of service. They were having problems with this KTV 19, which is maybe why they're all out of service. And they're Russian built, so that may be another reason why they're out of service. 3085, this one's out of service too. Now, this was built in 1989. It was received from Prague in May of 2013. This is X-Prague 7284. Now, the last car, the last T3 built, the serial number was 178785. This is serial number 178415. So it's towards this is one of the newest T3s around. All right, 403, that's X-Prague 7090. Received in Kharkiv, May of 2016. Another view of the station tram terminal. Now, we're going to get to the Route 3. The Route 3 is one of the busiest lines in the city. It runs in 2-car trains. Car 481 runs together with 482. That's a T3SU. These were built, these two cars were built in June of 1980. They're both out of service. The car on the right is ex-Bratislava 7832. The minibuses here are green, they're not yellow. Now, this is a little weird for me to look at. Because in late February of 2022, a news crew was driving down this street in complete darkness, and I recognized all the buildings because we walked this entire right away. This is an ex-Riga car, 51 and 71 and 72. Now, the numbering, see, it's 5171. This car, while it was in Riga, was numbered 51,710. The car behind it was numbered 51,721. They just dropped the one, and it's car 5172. Respectively, these two cars were received in September of 2014 and January 2014. This picture was taken September 27th, 2018. 3011 and 3012, these are ex-Bratislava cars, 1987, ex-Bratislava 7803 and 7818. There's 5117 again, west of Serhivsky Maidan. This is the central area of Kharkiv. We're continuing to walk west on Route 3. Route 3 goes west and then turns south and then loops back around to that loop we were at before. These are ex-Riga cars. Those are T3As from 1984. Both of these cars were received in December 2015. Ex-Riga 51,231 and 51,242. These are ex-Prague cars, 1983. Both were received in July of 2016 from Prague. There's 5117 and 18 again. As you can see, the trams in Kharkiv are heavily patronized, hence the two-car trains.
And the service was very frequent on the three.
Yes, yes. What is this? I'm just getting translation from Mary for what this is. What does that say?
Chubovi.
Does it mean like a work car? I
I
forgot to get this translation in advance. But as you can
It was
see,
a training car.
Training car. Okay, great. Thank you.
not telling the things it says.
Now, as you can see, our MTV 82 is here, but take a look at the condition of the track. Most places in Kharkiv, the track was in pretty good condition. This is one of the places where it wasn't. The 3 tram turns, this is the tram here, 3096, is coming south and is about to turn to the west over here. And here's our tram operator taking a bathroom break. There's a close-up look of that 3096. Both these cars are ex-Bratislava, 1985 built, received in 2017. This is a set we haven't seen yet, 5119 and 5120, ex-Riga, obviously by the paint scheme. Another one of those KTM 19s on Route 6. We're going to take a short look at Route 6. This is leaving Alexandra Nevskoho Street. Also on Route 6. This is ex-Bratislava 7759.
You notice on the ex-Bratislava cars, they have a full destination sign as opposed to these, which just have the number
Right.
up front.
That's car 3057. That's ex-Riga, 40,609. This is on Moskovsky Avenue. I imagine the name has since been changed. They've done a lot of renaming over the past year or so. We'll see that later with the Metro. Another KTM 19. Like I said, they only had 9 of these. They're all out of service as of this month. I don't know how long they've been. The roster I'm looking at was just updated recently, so it's very accurate. 3042. Another ex-Bratislava car. That's ex-Bratislava 7773, received April 2017. Now, this is the line 23. All the cars that were running on this line were built specifically for Kharkiv. These were built and for Kharkiv and spent their entire existence here. All of these cars that you're about to see running on the 23 line, they're all out of service pretty much permanently. Many of these were destroyed because this car is coming south, about a couple of miles north of here. The depot up there, that was the one that was bombed, and most of these cars are gone forever. This is a T3 SU, August 1985, built, and this car was confirmed as being destroyed. This is at, the location is Heroiv Platsk. This is the August 1983 car, another southbound Route 23. This is at Pedamohi Park. Date on this, September 28th, 2018. This is the day after our MTV 82 trip. It's a northbound. These cars were delivered in November 82. The front car, 675, was delivered November 84. 641 and 642, delivered 1983. These are all T3 SUs, built specifically for Kharkiv. And the stenciled numbering is very, very Soviet. Very, very Soviet. Northbound, this is north of the Valentinikiska station. 688, that's September 85, that car was delivered. Now, the Route 6 and the Route 8 turn here. This is in the southeastern portion of the city. Take note. Take note of the size of this T6. 4566 is a T6B5SU built in 1990, built for the Soviet Union. Take note of the car behind it. The car behind it is an ex-Prague T6. Take note of the size difference. And later on, you'll see the difference in the width. Take a mental note of how wide this window is. When we see the Prague car, you're going to see how narrow the window is. All right, but before we get to that, let's take a look at one of the, this is a T3 VPA car, ex-Tatra T3 SU. The original car was built June of 83. It was converted in September of 2009. So what you see here, this car is out of service. I don't know if it's for damage or it's probably because of damage. 695, this car is also out of service. That's a T3 SU from 1986. All right, this is an ex-Prague T685. Take note of the difference in window design. All right, let's quickly go back to see the T6 SU. See that? How big the window is, how wide it is, how wide the entire car is, and see the profile, how tall the car is. Now we'll go to the ex-Prague car. This is ex-Prague 8618. This is also out of service. Some of these ex-Prague cars were destroyed in the depot also when it was bombed. Oh, I should take note. When we took the MTV 82, we left it at the depot and they didn't want to leave us there. So they took this car and let us ride this car. It was one of their, this is probably the flagship of the system here. See how fresh the paint is and all that. So they gave us this car to ride around as a, symbol of their pride. Now take note of the CKD, the car builder's plate. Yeah. Good. This is the interior. There's Mary, there's Jack. And that's what the rear of the car looks like. I may have ridden this car in Prague. I don't know, because I rode many of these in Prague. Another one of the KTM 19. This was the additional car that they brought out for us because they thought 40 people were showing up. The other operator got the day off, basically, or got paid for hanging out in the barn. But this would have been our other car. Take a look at the line 27 very briefly. That's a T3SU, built new for Kharkiv. It was originally numbered 1512, then numbered 302, then 598. They love to renumber things in Ukraine. When cars get modified, they usually renumber them. All right. This is the Kharkiv Metro. This is one of the least visited metros on the planet. The only one that's visited less is the one in Dnipro. But this is a classic 3-line Soviet system with the triangle in the middle. This station is Moskovsky Prospect. It was renamed very quickly after the war started. Now it's named Turbo Atom, which is named for a construction company headquartered in Kharkiv, not far from the station. But as you can see, the classic E-class metro cars. And these signs have since been ripped down because this means Moscow Prospect. This sign now says Turbo Atom, one word. And the station prior to this, Prospect Gagarina, was named after Yuri Gagarin. That name has held. Same station. This is one of the original 5 stations. Let me describe the system. It opened the night of August 22nd to 23rd, 1975. Currently has 3 lines, 30 stations, 38.7 kilometers in length, 1,520 millimeter, 825 volts DC, 320 cars, which are 59 5-car trains. All the platforms are exactly 100 meters long. That's 330 feet. The metro was closed for COVID from March 17th, 2020 to May 24th, 2020, reopening on May 25th, 2020. The system was closed in February 22 for obvious reasons, but reopened 3 months later on May 19th, 2022. And the residents who were living in the metro system were removed and the system reopened. Most of the cars were built from 1974 to 2003. There's a few sets of the later new cars from 2011. This is the Traktorny Zavod station. These are all handheld Fujichrome 100 slides. These are all scanned. As you can see, this is during the rush hour, so a lot of people getting off. And after the crowds go, since nobody's really going, hardly anybody's going in the other direction towards the central area. The platforms are temporarily empty and then they fill up again. As you can see, the train before left 1 minute and 6 seconds prior, and the time of day is 5:57 p.m. in the afternoon. These were all taken September 27th, 2018. This is about the limit of what you can do with handheld photography. This is ISO 100, and you have to pan the train coming in. I could have done it digital, but didn't come out too bad. This is the interior of one of the cars at the terminal. That's why there's no people on it. Typical Soviet metro interior, the E-Class. They also have a trolleybus system there. That's an LAZ E301D1. This was delivered in February of 2011. This was built at the Lviv bus factory, which is since closed. It's another tram, another trolleybus. This is a ZIU-682G. This bus is in dead storage. We'll get more into the ZIUs later. This is the train station, 10:41 in the AM. The departure board. And they have some electric MUs there. These are ER2Ps. These particular kind of MUs were built from 1979 to 1987, built in Riga. These are the only, the VL82s mostly run in the eastern portion of the country. These are dual voltage locomotives, 3K DC and 25 kV AC. These were built from 1972 to 1979 at the Novocherkassk electric locomotive plant in Rostov and EVZ. So these are Russian built. Another look at the other side. Let's take a look at a builder's plate. Yeah. CCCP. Now, Wikipedia says these engines were built from 1973 on. Obviously, Wikipedia is wrong. Thankfully, there's a really good website that covers all of the Eastern Bloc countries, and all these details I'm getting from the trolleys and other stuff, and the trolley buses for that matter also, are all from that website. If you really poke around on the website and know what you're doing, you can see every T3 built and serial number and where it went, its number and renumbering and all that stuff from 1960 all the way to 1989, and every other type of tram and trolley bus too. Needless to say, I've spent the equivalent of 4 days just going through that website. Really interesting stuff. Just Google trans photo, TRANSPHOTO. That's TRANSPHOTO. And if you're into Eastern Bloc trolleys, you'll probably be on that website the entire weekend. Okay, there's another station called the Levada station in Kharkiv. It's basically just a commuter-only station. Some more ER2Ps.
Eric,
Yes.
could you at some point, not now, Phil Burton's asking for the URL for that website. You could put it in the, you could give it to me later and I'll pass it on to him. The website you just mentioned.
Okay, but if you Google trans photo, it comes up. TRANSPHOTO. It comes up right away.
TRANS, what else?
Photo, one word.
Google oh, okay. All right. Phil is
Yeah,
on.
right.
I assume he's listening. Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna try it right now. Yeah, it's transphoto.org.
Okay,
Photo.
I just put it in the chat so everyone can see it.
great,
Yes,
thank you.
transphoto.org.
Great.
You may not like the origins of the website, but I've had no problems with it. It's a safe website. If you dig deeper into it, you'll see why I said what I just said. But
Okay,
anyway,
very good, thank you.
okay, but it's a really good website. I've used it for the last 2 years. The information is just unbelievable. Okay, welcome to Odessa. Population, 1,015,000, named in 1794 by decree of Catherine the Great. It was formerly known as Hasabey in the Ottoman Empire from 1529. And as you can see in the background, what we're interested in. But we'll get back to that. This is the main tram station right near the main train station. The Potemkin Steps. There's 192 stairs, so don't bother counting. They were built from 1837 to 1841 out of sandstone. The sandstone was really starting to deteriorate, so they were rebuilt in granite in 1933. Now, it looks higher than it is. It's not. It is pretty high, but the top is actually narrower than the bottom, which gives it the illusion that it's a lot longer than it is. But as you can see by the size of the people up there, that it's not an easy walk. It was pretty cool this day. By the time Mary and I got up to the top, we were sweating. There's a funicular over here, which was out of service at the time. This is at the top. It's Mary and I. This is a statue of the Duc de Richelieu. This was put up in 1828. The Duke himself died in 1822. During the French Revolution, he got out of town because he was a royalist, joined the Imperial Russian Army, eventually becoming governor of Odessa, because he was a governor of Odessa from 1803 to 1814. He basically schmoozed Tsar Alexander I, if you know what I mean. Okay, so this is the Odessa train station. That's another VL40 with a different type of window. These were built in 2004, 25 kV by NEVZ, Russian built. This is the Odessa main train station. It opened in 1884, destroyed by the Nazis in 1944, and rebuilt to what you see today in 1952. Departure board, arrival board, as you can see, it's 2:06 p.m. All right, tram time in Odessa. If you like trams, go to Odessa, you'll have a ball. 25 lines, 169 cars as of yesterday, 1,524 millimeter. Horse trams from July 20th to 1880, electrified 1910 to 1915. Formerly was meter gauged. The entire system was regauged over time. 6 lines were regauged from 1933 to 35, the remainder from 1951 to 1976. So it's all 1,524 millimeter right now. 4045 was built for Odessa in 1984. This is south of Torahova Street. The Route 3 is a very interesting line. If you hit it just at the right time of day, so I was planning the whole trip to hit this street just this time of day because I used Google Streets to operate around the city before we went. Now that's car 2961 with a New York style route sign. Also purpose built for Odessa in 1986. These particular pictures were taken October the 5th, 2018.
So Eric, I'm just going to mention one of the viewers is Gregory Katz, and apparently he went to school in Odessa, and I think one of the pictures was near where he went to school and near where his grandmother's apartment is. I mean, he lives here now, but I guess he's from Odessa. So
You can tell him to email me whatever. I'll gladly email him copies of these pictures.
I will
No.
do that. Thank you.
Anyone that, he can watch the replay later on in a couple of weeks and pick out the pictures he wants, and I'll forward them to him if he wants. As you can see, the architecture is unbelievable all over Odessa. The pictures don't really do it justice. That's car 4007. That's a 1983 T3 SU, but rebuilt as a T3R.P. Car 4037, 1984. This is at Yelisavetsky. I'm not going to butcher that name. It's in Odessa. Car 3324. That's a 1982 car, all along the Route 3. 7154, that's a 1978 T3A. Some people are not going to like the origin of this car. This is former Moscow car 5028. It was sent to Riga in 1989. I'm sorry, in 2013, and later sent to Odessa. Now, this is an incomplete map. Maps of the system, the official maps are really hard to find. This is as close to official it gets, but it's missing 2 of the lines. I don't know why, but where my cursor is, that's where the 1 and 7 line go. It goes in this direction, which is north, all right? But everything else is pretty accurate. Our hotel was down here at the junction of the 5 and the 28. Yeah, on the Black Sea. The last picture will be a shot of the Black Sea. But the system is huge and unwieldy. To walk all the lines, it was more time than we had. Jack was lucky enough, he got to stay an extra day or two. So he saw more of it than we did. But once all this ridiculous stuff is over, we're going to go back and we're going to revisit a lot of places once they're able to take tourists again. And we want to visit our relatives again too. We also have relatives in Poland, which we visited. But anyway, 3312, that's a 1981 car. Now, the next picture is a little weird. All right, that's 4062. It's a 1985 T3 SU. I'm going to zoom in on something which really blew my mind. Can everybody see this? That's a New Jersey license plate.
Yeah, we can see that. Yep.
Yeah, it's bizarre. So somebody actually shipped their car over. All right, we're getting towards the north end of the 3 line. This is on Primorska Street. That's a 1985 car. 2956, that's a 1986 car. This is a rebuilt T3. The Odessa assigned the type to this, T3 KVP OD, rebuilt in 2017. It's an XT3 SU built in 1970. This is at the north end of the 3 line where a couple of other lines come in, like this line here. That's the Route 20. That's a 1979 T3 SU. The railroad line is up here. We were watching trains go by up here. 5008, that's another T3 KVP OD, converted in 2017. That's an ex-Moscow car. It's originally S-Moscow 5272, renumbered 3409 in Moscow in 1994, sent to Odessa on November the 15th, 1997. Now we're on those lines that were off the map and not listed, the lines 1 and 7. That's a 1985 T3 SU. This is at Peresipsky Mist. This is the old paint scheme. Two-tone blue with the white stripe. Most of these cars have all been repainted. We only saw maybe 5 or 6 of these running around in this old paint scheme, mostly all in the 4000s. Now this is a wrap car. They didn't want the car number to interfere with the advertisement, so they put the number on the bumper. That's a 1981 T3R.P, formerly T3SU. And car 3328, 1982, T3SU. Now, this is Tram Central in Odessa. I literally spent hours here, hours. A tram comes in like every minute or so, sometimes even more frequent than that. Okay. Just see a few pictures here. Take note of car 4089, advertisement for LOT, the Polish national airline. Whenever the 2 times we've flown to Ukraine, we flew via Warsaw. It's usually the cheapest flight, and LOT is a pretty good airline. One of the trips we flew over in a 787. Was my first trip on a 787. The 787s are all that they live up to, all that they are talked about. When you get off a 787, you don't feel as murky, and you don't feel as nasty, because it's kept at the air pressure is kept at the elevation of Denver, 6,000 feet. Most other airlines, the air pressure inside is the equivalent of 9,000 feet. That's why you feel so nasty getting off long distance flights, but not so on a 787. The A350 is the same way. But anyway, and of course, when you stop in Warsaw, you got to stop and see the Warsaw system. If you haven't been to Warsaw, you've got to go there. They have over 700 trams running all over the place. In some places, you see a tram every 30 seconds. Go to Warsaw. You'll have a good time. All right, 4062 with the Odessa city symbol here. Now, I told you before, these are Fujichrome slides, right? These are scans from Fujichrome slides. It's ASA 100, it's Provia 100F. Now, even when you zoom in at this extreme, you know, it's like 24 megapixel. It's not as good as Kodachrome, which was even higher. But so if you focus properly, it's pretty good. Car 3220, that's a 1987 car. On the Route 10. Another advertisement car, 4023, that's a 1984 car. 2965. And then you got your K1s. All right, just give me 1 second. They have a number of these. Most of them run on Route 5. We were lucky to get 1 or 2 on Route 10. These were built in 2006. 3331 over here is 1982. It's a 1982 car. And there's a better shot of the K1. More cars at the main station. And if you've never seen the rear of a T3, that's what they look like. It's a 3-piece window, just like in the front. Slightly different shape. Some of them are Shrukhtas. We're basically heading away from the train station now, going south. They also have trolley buses in Odessa. That is a Trolza 5265. That's the model number, Trolza 5265. It has a nickname too, that's a Megapolis. Now, this is a ZIU built, the same factories that they built the ZIU trolley buses, formerly known as the Uritsky factory. The factory is in Engels, Russia. They went out of business on February the 20th, 2020. ZIU/Trolza built 65,000 trolleybuses from 1951 to 2020, including trolleybuses for Athens and other places. 65,000 trolleybuses. And these are some of the later ones. This is the classic ZIU design. Most of those 65,000 buses in the 70s and 80s looked like this. That's a ZIU-682V. This particular one was built in 1987. This is just outside the main train station. It's another Trolza 5265. This was received in Odessa, May 12, 2009. Of course, this picture was taken in 2018. That's another ZIU-682G. This was delivered to Odessa on June 21st, 1991. It's now in dead storage. Back to the trolley system. That's a rebuilt T3 from 1976. Privos Rheinor. Same area. It's an ex-Riga car. We're going to go through these a little quicker now. The Route 10. Another rebuilt car. This is the main train station in the back. We're looking to the east. Some Route 10 stuff. The Route 21. The Route 28. This is not far from the main train station. The 5 and 28 run together for a bit. Much of what runs on the Route 5 are these K1s. Route 5. Again, the Route 28. And most of the K1s are in the wrap paint scheme. We saw that one K1 before on Route 10 in the city paint scheme. This is not far from our hotel. The Black Sea is behind us. So we're looking almost due west. The Marshruta. And we'll leave Odessa. This is sunrise. This is October the 6th, 2018 at 7:05 a.m. This is from our hotel room in Odessa. Now, welcome to Dnipro. How many we got, Bob, still on?
107.
Okay, I'll keep going.
Very stable. So yeah, we're still good.
All right.
Oh, before you go on, Phil Burton wanted me to let you know, since you mentioned Warsaw, he was there in 2008 and he did a lot of photography. So he appreciates all the comments you made about the Warsaw system. So
yeah, everybody talks about Prague. Prague is a great trolley system, but when you go to Warsaw, most of the architecture is new, but just the sheer volume of trolleys. Pretty much everywhere in the Warsaw central area, the trolleys are just back to back to back. You know, some areas in Prague are that way, but if you're a trolley nut, go to Warsaw. You'll have a ball.
I think that's also because the Warsaw Metro is started later and is not as big. I think a lot of the Prague trams got taken off. Their metro started in 74, so
right.
The metro in Prague is bigger, so that caused a lot of lines to go away. So
right. Okay. All right, here we go. All right. Dnipro is 296 miles southeast of Kyiv by road. There's 14 tram lines that utilize, as of today, 232 trams. Population 968,500. fourth largest city in Ukraine. This is the train station. More of those EMUs. Okay. These are the EPL2 MUs. These were built in the late 90s through early 2000s. And these classic Soviet MUs. Classic. These are so Soviet, you know, it's I don't know. It's just the mood of the Soviet Union. I think of Leonid Brezhnev when I see these. Another one of those switching locomotives, and some of the 8,000 plus coaches that run around Ukraine. Most of the intercity trains in Ukraine are about 15 to 16 cars long, and they're all packed. Like this one. This is at dusk at the Dnipro station. I've already gone over. This is a freight train running with a VL8. This is on the east side of the Dnipro River, the Amur station, AMUR. This is September 29th, 2018. A close-up of this. So you got the Ukrainian flag along the side. The interesting thing about these locomotives is that each of the locomotives looks different. Like you got this type of symbol on the front. And these are just classic old locomotives. And this is also a VL8, but it just looks completely different. Dnipro has probably the least visited metro system on the planet. Just give me 1 second. It only has 6 stations. It opened December 29th, 1995, 4.8 miles long. 15 3-car sets provide service. 20,000 daily riders. 20,000, that ain't much. 5-foot gauge. They used to run 5-car trains. Now they run 3-car trains. The rush hour headway is 7 minutes. On a Sunday or a Saturday, we were there on a Saturday, it was on a 15 to 17 minute headway. So you have a lot of time to look at the nice stations. And this is a subway, this is the metro platform. The tracks are on either side. As you can see, it's only 6 stations, but hardly anybody rides this thing, especially on the weekend. If it gets extended, people will have an excuse to ride it, but it's only 6 stations. This is one of the stations. This is the Metro Budin Kyiv station. This is September 29th, 2018. As you can see, the end of the station is dark because the trains don't stop there anymore. They're 5-car platforms, but only 3-car trains. And there goes one of the trains. You can see the crowded platforms. There's Mary. And at this point, this lady comes down and says, "You can't take pictures. You can't." The only place in Ukraine in all the travels we did there where we were told don't take pictures. And these are the more modern, the 1990s Metro Wagenmarsch cars. Because the system opened in 95, so those are the cars they have. Okay, the tram system. All right, just give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. All right, we already went over the tram system. All right, that's car 1343. That was on the cover page of the intro page on the meeting notice. So we'll skip that one. That's a 1985. This is on the Amursky Bridge. This comes into play during the war. We'll get back to that. But this is a system map. These are all tram lines. This is one of the few official system maps we can find. The Amersky Bridge is here. All right, that's where that picture was taken. The main train station is here. This line here, the one line, that's the busiest line on the system. It runs 2-car trains, the most modern stuff, some T3s. And we covered most of the lines down here, and we rode this tram line here, the 19, is really interesting. This is really industrial Soviet era factories and things like that. And it goes over the bridge here. And these lines up here, like the 19, the 20, they run different cars than on the rest of the system. But anyway. It's on the Amersky Bridge, closer to the western side of the river. And take note what's coming. You got a trolley bus. Oh, car 1273. Let me just. Wait a second. That's a 1983 T3SU. This car was retired December of 2020. That first car we saw, 1343, was retired January 2020 because they got a lot of secondhand cars now from other cities. That's a BKM 321 trolley bus built. The BKM stands for Belt Kommunmash, mass-produced in Minsk, in Belarus, and in Lutsk in Ukraine since 2003. This particular bus entered service. This is relatively new. This was delivered to the Dnipro system January 13th, 2017. That is a YMZ T2 built at the A.M. Makarov Southern Machine Building in Dnipro. That factory closed in 2011. These YMZ buses are operating in 36 Ukrainian cities, plus variations of what you see before you. Let's take a look at the Route 1. This is the main train station in the background. The Route 1, these are Tatra Yug T6B5 cars. These are built, also known as T3Ms. The T3Ms were assembled in both Prague and Dnipro from 1983 to 2007. They don't have enough of these, so they have some Tatras. That's a T3DC1 and a T3DC2. It has a D in it, so that means they were built for Deutschland, for Germany. These are ex-Schwerin cars, 102 and 202. 3011 and 3012, Tatra Yugs, built in 2001. That's a T6B5. Now take a note, these look different, right? That's a T6A2M. These started operating in East Berlin, right? These were built in 1988. They ran in East Berlin with a very weird numbering system. Like the front one was numbered 218-109-5. Then it was, after the unification, these cars went into the BVG system, the current Berlin system. On January 1st, 1993, they were renumbered 8109 to 8125, then redone again. And in February 2013, they were sent to Dnipro. More ex-East Berlin cars. These were sent to Dnipro in February 2013 from Berlin. Take note of the architecture here. Hey, car 1280, that's a 1980 car. Now, these two wrecks here, 1351 and 1352, were built in 1986. Both these cars were put out of their misery in March of 2021. But these were fun to ride. I may call them wrecks, but these are the best cars to ride. This T3 with a rebuilt front end. That's a T3SU from 1979. It's the market in the background, the main market for Dnipro. Yep. 1323 and 1324, these are 1985 cars. These cars are officially out of service, but they're not retired yet. This is on the other side of the river in Soviet style. They don't bury their pipelines. They leave them right here. That's a natural gas pipeline right on our left, right beside a electrified mainline railroad and an electrified trolley system. Well, that's a 1984 T3SU. This is on Route 9. This car was retired in January of 2020. And these are the cars that run on the other side of the river. They cross the river, then terminate. That's a 71-608 KM. That's a KTM8 built in September of 95. It was getting pretty dark here. That's another KTM8. This is Stara Mostova Square. Not far from it. Yep. 1501 is a KTM-5M3. Most KTM5s, which this is one of them, have the fluted sides like an R32. These were, now the KTM5s, they're second in number to the T3s and T4s. 14,991 of these were built from 1963 to 1992. They only ran in the former Soviet Union. That's a KTM5. This was new in July of 1987. And there's your typical KTM5 with the fluted sides. Cars like this ran all over the Soviet Union in huge numbers. That one was built in April of '89. This one is now out of service. Trolleybus, that's a YUMZ T1R, built by the Yuzmash AM Makarov Yuzhny machine building plant in Dnipro. Let's go to Mykolaiv, next city. Mykolaiv was a surprise to us as it was a really nice city. Most of these cities were pretty nice, but you know, to a place that most Westerners never heard of, and you show up here, it's a really nice place. Okay, Mykolaiv is known for its shipbuilding. It's on the southern Bug River, which accesses the Black Sea. Currently, as of today, yesterday, 48 trams are in service, but the lines aren't that long, so it's not that the lines aren't that infrequent, 10 minutes or less. This is the best map I can come up with that's official. Each of these lines is a tram line. Excuse the darkness over here. This should look familiar. The paint scheme should look very familiar because this ran in Pilsen. This ran in Pilsen as number 227. It's a 1983 T3 received in Mykolaiv on September the 29th, 2015. Same car again. This is one of the best looking KTM5s I've ever seen. It just looks like it just came out of the paint shop. This was built in April of '89. It's on Route 3 at Sadova Street. All these Mykolaiv shots were taken October the 3rd and October 4th of 2018. 2051, another car in good condition. That was built in 1988. This is your typical paint scheme, the red with the blue stripe. Typical KTM5 paint scheme for the Soviet Union. This car was built in April '89. Another Pilsen car. This car arrived in Mykolaiv December 23rd, 2015. That's ex-Pilsen car number 226. And a little market over here for KTM 5 2065, built in March of 83. And they don't have too many of these in Mykolaiv. A KTM 8, this was built in 1994. This is Route 7 west of Sadova Street. Another KTM 5, June of 87 built. Yet another one. This is 1988 built on Route 11. As you can see, the right-of-way is very New Orleans-ish. For our 1096, it's in April 89. Let's look at the interior of this particular car. This is your typical interior KTM 5, very Spartan. And they have some Tatra Yugs, T6B5s. This one was built in 1999. This is at the far end of the Route 3. It's the Bug River in the background. The name of the station is very Soviet. It's 8A Viskova Street. They often have addresses in the names of their streets, stops. That is a Skoda 14TRR from 1991. This is ex-Brno in Czechoslovakia. Was received in Mykolaiv in September of 2015. This was built specifically for Mykolaiv. That's a YMZ T2. 3006. All right, that is an MAZ-ETON T103. It was received on October 10th, 2012. It was built at the Minsky Automobilny Zavad. Electric equipment was from Eton in Belarus. You can't get any more of these buses anymore because Belarus is on the sanctions list. Take note of the Neoplan style front window. Another ex-Brno bus, Skoda, 1989, received in Mykolaiv August 20th, 2015. This one is still in service. All right, this is a unique diesel locomotive. Pretty much only saw these in eastern Ukraine, in southeastern Ukraine. That's a diesel. It's a 2E10M. Y, I should say. U 210E10U. These were built from 1989 to 1997. Only 99 of these were produced, although 8,200 of similar locomotives were produced from 1960 to the present, both at Luhansk, the Plavaz, and the Malyshev factories, in Kharkiv, and the Luhansk one is no longer around because it's been looted. Take a closer up look of this diesel locomotive. There's another side view of a different one. And one of those switching locomotives with a test car here. All right, now let's move on to Kamiansk. Most of these I love city signs are in English. Hold on one sec, just got a text here. Okay.
That's a new name for it. It has some.
Yeah, this is Kamiansk.
Name with the Dnipro in the front.
Population 237,000. This is a port on the Dnipro River, 275 miles southeast of Kyiv, 164 miles south by southwest of Kharkiv. 27 trams are in service on 4 lines. As of yesterday, The 24 trams are 5 KTM8s, 9 T3s, 4 Tatra Yug T6s, 1 K1, and 8 former Prague T6s, which were the former Prague T6s were delivered after we had been there. They arrived in 2020 and 2021. The Kamiansk central area is at the bottom of a steep hill. So the mainline railroad could not get to the central area, so it's outside of town. You hop on a tram and you go down this long grade to the central part of town. It's one of those Hyundai Rotem dual voltage EMU sets. Coming back in the afternoon, you have these EPL2T MUs. They come in different paint schemes. This is the brown on the front. This is the blue on the front. And this is a VL11, but it's rebuilt. Now take note of the portholes on the side. There's 4 here, there are 2 here. This is a rebuilt locomotive that is much older than it seems. We'll take a look at what it looked like before it was rebuilt. We'll go back to a previous picture. Take note of the 4 portholes and the 2 portholes. This is what it looked like before rebuilding with that old style front. But that's what it looks like rebuilt. Sold in the Kamian station. Kamian station. A VL8 came through. Take a look at the system. That's a KTM8. Delivered in 1997. Zol Kamiansk. This car is currently out of service. That's a 1983 T3SU, ex-Prague, number 777017. That's a KTM8 from 1996. This one's out of service, replaced by the Prague T6s. That's a Tatra Yug T6B5, built in 2000. 680 is still in service. It's ex-Prague, 7062. These were in Kharkiv for 5 months before they were sent further on to Kamiansk. That was built specifically for Kamiansk in '84, so that's a home car. Now, the car number is not 2014, it's actually 2003, but 2014, that was the beginning of the hostilities in the East, and you have all the military insignia here. One of the routes goes out into the industrial area. There are tracks under there, believe it or not. That's an ex-Prague car. And there's me and Jack waiting for that tram to show up. And this is the 4 line. Goes into the woods out to a factory. KTM 5. Don't have time to go into it, but look up Kamiansk and look up KTM 5 1044. It was one of the worst trolley accidents in history, up there with what happened in Chicago to the PCC. So look up KTM 5 1044 Kamiansk. There's a whole Wikipedia page on the accident. And this is a trolley loop, believe it or not. You can see the rail there. And here comes the tram. Woods, tram. Another KTM 5 on Route 3. If you're a rail fan in Kamiansk, you would rent an apartment here so you can watch trams go back and forth all day. Interior car 688. There's Jack May, there's Mary. Typical T3. Number T3. Some Kamiansk was, I noticed there were a lot of stray dogs around. Of the Tatra Yug. Have This is the top of the hill. So this hill begins here and just goes down and down and down and down. And our last shot in Kamiansk at the other end of the 4 line, where you can get close and personal with goats. Welcome to Kryvyi Rih. This is actually a train we took out 2 days later to Zaporizhia. This is our train that we're going to ride, but this is the Kryvyi Rih station. This is where the president of Ukraine is from, Vladimir Zelensky. Volodymyr. He's from this city. There's a VL11 and another ER1. In this section of the country, there are more of these ER1s around and shorter trains. Take note, this one is only 6 cars. There are a lot of these ER1s around. And what's replacing these? But these aren't built anymore, so these are going to be around for a while unless they get some MUs from the Western supplied EMUs. Another one of these. The VL8. Kryvyi Rih also has a express metro. It actually goes into the subway. 40% of this line, take note, 1M, M is for metro. This is the one end of it. It's at a loop. And this is on the private, it's on private right of way. The last station on the other end is over here. And then these trams will be in the subway in a short time. Take note of the snazzy numbers denoting speed. If you've never ridden a T3 in the subway, bring earplugs. They're very, very noisy at speed. This is one of the metro cars running in the local service. It's rebuilt with a new front. 459. That's a rebuilt car. Take note, it still has the wrapping over here. Here's Jack about to get on it. Just give me 1 second. That's a, believe it or not, that's a rebuilt KTM 5. Now take note of the dual headlights. You would think the next tram is the same thing, but it isn't. Take note of the single headlight. This is a rebuilt KTM 8. These are the cars on the local system. They run separately from the metro, the express metro. That's a K1 from 2008. Another one. It's a KTM. That's a KTM 8. This is all in Kryvyi Rih.
Going back to the trolley subway, it's interesting to note 2 aspects of it. One is that most of it is self-contained. In other words, the cars just run within the light rail system and do not go out and join the rest of the system. But about once every 20 minutes or so, there is a trip that runs over both systems. The line starts out with right-hand running, where it connects with the rest of the system. But then there is a flying junction, not really a flying crossover underground, where the cars change from right-hand operation to left-hand operation, which allows for island platforms because the T3 cars are only single-ended with doors on the right side. So that makes it rather interesting. And for me on this trip, at one of those stations was the only place where I was told not to photograph. Otherwise, like Eric said, photography was very easy and totally non-controversial in Ukraine.
How long is the trolley subway, and in terms of noise, how would it compare with the PCCs running underground either in San Francisco, Philadelphia, or Boston? Is it much louder?
Much noisier,
Much
much
noisier.
noisier.
Wow.
Oh, let's go into the system itself. There's 13 tram lines. It's 15 24 millimeter. There's 71 serviceable cars for the streetcar lines. Okay. For the metro, there's 52 T3s and 8 KTM 11 trams. I didn't see any KTM 11s running in the subway when I was there. Did you see any KTM 11s,
No,
Jack?
all I saw were T3s.
Yeah, that's all I saw either. So, but apparently there's KTM 11s now. But just give me 1 second. Get to the okay. The subway. It's 11 stations, 4 are underground. But even though the 7 of the stations are outdoors, 40% of the entire system is in the subway. It opened December 26, 1986, and they run every 3 to 5 minutes. It's 11.6 miles long. So 40% of that's in the subway. All right, another KTM 5. I'm sorry, that's a KTM 8. That's a 5. Now this one is in rough shape. Built in 1989. This is an interior of a KTM 5, number 416. 2 KTM 5s back to back. This is a work car. That's R22. That's a former KTM 5. As a matter of fact, right here is the merge point with tracks to the metro right here. You can go from the city system to the metro system here.
That's the connection, and the curved track over on the right is part of the loop of inbound metro cars.
Right. This is the Keltseva station. This is one of the ends. They also have trolley buses. This is the weirdest paint scheme I've ever seen on the trolley bus. It's beige and chocolate. That's a YMZ T1R. Okay. Second. That's another that's a YMZ T2. A couple more of these. That is an LAZ E183D1 built in 2010 from the Lviv bus factory, which is out of business. Zaporizhia, right? That's been in the news. Now this is a K1 from November 2008. This is at the Volhymadan station. This is ex-Berlin KT4DTM built in 1987. Formerly East Berlin 218-579-1. This was delivered to Zaporizhia July 19th, 2018. This is October 2018. It entered service September 25th, 2018, just 6 days prior to this photo was taken. Since we've been there, more of these have arrived. Yeah. And these wrecks are in dead storage, but these are the wrecks I love to ride. Because I'll show you an interior one of these. That's a T3 SU from 1977. It's on the Route 10. These are in dead storage right now as we speak. This is in dead storage. That's a 1979 T3 SU. Interesting paint scheme. That's the Zaporizhia paint scheme because this is not secondhand. That's a advertising car. This car is in dead storage. That's a 1977 car. And this car is in dead storage now. It was dying while we were there because look at the walls, and there were there was electrical wiring hanging down from the ceiling. I wanted to see this car at night because this is where the lighting fixtures should be. I would love to have ridden this car at night to see what it was like. But like I said, it wasn't long for this world because they were getting the new, the used East Berlin cars to replace these. If you look at the roster now, it's changed a lot. Car 385, this is still in service. That's a 1983 car. That's a T6B5SU built for Zaporizhia. That's still in service. This came in 1999. .463, that's a Tatra Yug T6B5 from 1995. I just love these cars with this Soviet stenciling. It's just so Soviet. You know, it's like a anachronism today. It's a T3SU from 1983. This was renumbered to 702 on October 8th, 2021. And this is a T-3UA3-3P. Rebuilt T3. This is in dead storage. That's a 1985 T3SU. Another one of those rebuilds. We saw these same cars in Odessa, but this is a much nicer paint scheme. You know, it's really it's a Ukrainian pattern along here. It's really elaborate. These are really nice. And the cars that they got from East Berlin, well, via Unified Berlin, will be in this paint scheme like that 002 was. 807 is still in service. It's a 1987 T3SU. Trolleybus, that's an LAZ E183D1, delivered in December 2007, since renumbered to 215 in November of 2019, a year after this picture was taken. And they got the trolleybus in the same elaborate paint scheme. That's a Dnipro T103, Ukrainian built. And this is the only one of these locomotives I saw the whole time we were there. These were built from 1971 to 2015. Now, Bob, how many we got?
We're at 92.
All right, I'll briefly go through the videos really quick.
Okay.
Now, for those that do Zoom shows, you do not have to set up PowerPoints. What you do is you save, you see all these are all numbered in sequential order. And if you want to add something in, like between 1820 and 1821, you just renumber it 1828. So you don't have to create PowerPoints. You just put it in your documents or your pictures and you can just go right from there. No narration necessary. That's Jack. Mary. Now on the wall, they had pictures of Kharkiv in 1945. Now, if we were sitting exactly where we were sitting on February 24th to 25th, 2022, we would have been killed because this is all collapsed in here. I put this one in here to listen to the brakes at the end. This is the Kharkiv Metro. One more from the Kharkiv Metro. Bob, are the videos coming through okay?
Yes, perfect. Yep.
This is on the Route 4 and 5 on that private right-of-way, the T4 and the T5 in Kyiv, on our way down to that commuter station. And that's Mary smiling in the trolley car. Good. All right, these are the that commuter train that loops around the city. These are the cars. I think I got 2 videos of them. Interesting ride. After we took this, we went to eat at KFC in the station. All right, this is the VL10. This is in Lviv. M62 diesel. I was about to get cut off by another train. Very Alco-ish. And these are those classic ER1 MUs. We're waiting for our overnight train to Warsaw, and one of the MUs was going to lay up.
На 5-му пероні закінчується посадка на Кримський тролейбус номер 6000
One of those rebuilt T3s. And there's Jack in action over there. Interior KTM-5 in Mykolaiv. I was hoping for this door to open. This is an exposed chain that pulls on the door. I wonder how many coats have been caught on that. Kamyansk. And coming out of the woods. Yeah. Go.
I'm meteorologist Todd Glickman in the WCBS Weather Center. Welcome to the 2023 ERA Show.
We got to throw that in there. And greetings from, let's see if
Hello there. I'm with Eric today. It's February 11th, right before the show. And we're P-Pack on the Gladstone line. You know, in the twilight of their years, the original MUs, I was out here with the late Steve Zabel and other people. Steve really put the Gladstone line on the map.
this is
And
less
now that their replacement, the Jersey Arrows, the Silver Liners, whatever you want to call them, their replacements are on order. So me and Eric are getting out here and doing what was done 40 some odd years ago or more. And that is chasing the Gladstone line, getting the old MUs, getting the service that's out here. And speaking of icons that are no longer with us, remember what Dinah Shore said. Now, even though I'm a Mopar fan, I do see the USA in my Chevrolet, retired NYPD. Back.
All right, the great Todd Glickman and Eddie McKernan. It's the Millington High Bridge on the Gladstone branch. And the holiday train was working at this day, and it was routed up the east side. So I got off at Grand Central to go home. Parade of Trains, September. Latest addition to the museum fleet, R10 in the late 60s paint scheme. All in a day's work. Auto train in Norton. Never seen them unloaded cars there. So after all the cars are unloaded, they reload new cars for the people going to Sanford, Florida. And we got way ahead of the train doing other stuff. And that same night, 9:30 at night, Benson, North Carolina, we shot the train coming through. 9:30 p.m., Benson, North Carolina. Just happened to be where our Hampton Inn was that night on one of our many road trips. Now, this is Dellen, Florida, not far from Sanford. While we're looking at this, take note of this piece of track right here at the Frog for the Switch. Really interesting. Longest passenger train in the history of the United States. If you watch the replay, you can count the cars. All right, I promised Florida East Coast. This is just south of Jacksonville. All these videos were taken by Mary. All of these FEC videos and all those Amtrak videos, all taken by Mary. This is just north of Daytona Beach, Florida. The typical arrival gets here about 8:45, 9 a.m. The last northbound trip from Miami, Hialeah Yard. Don't have the time this time of night to go through what, but I'll briefly show you. All right, you got your GE locomotives, right? And this is not CNG, this is LNG, liquefied natural gas. About up to 80% of the fuel propulsion for these locomotives can be LNG, the rest is straight diesel. These locomotives are capable of running on full diesel or up to 80% LNG. If I remember the number right, I might get the 80% wrong, but I got it in my notes. But anyway, This is Ormond Beach, Florida, going north. This is Titusville, going north again. This is Watson Road, St. Augustine Shores, milepost 43.6. We're 43.6 miles south of Jacksonville, another northbound. New Smyrna Beach. Take note of the logo over here, Grupo Mexico. Florida East Coast is owned by Grupo Mexico. It's Mexican owned. Okay, on the former CSX line between Baldwin and Pensacola, it's now the Florida Gulf and Atlantic. Mary always gets the toots of the horn. I never get those for some reason. These are former FEC locomotives. That was the FEC number 104. Florida Gulf and Atlantic got this one used, and that's the logo. Nice little operation. All right, Sunrail, the commuter operation that runs through Orlando. We had to photograph here because it's Lake Mary. I threw this one in. That's an ex-Conrail unit on the point. Somewhere under there is Conrail Blue. And the interesting thing with the videos is you can put this pops up, so you don't really need the narration. Stark, Florida. The line down goes down to Tampa. All right, the ERA's convention, and this past September, was in Athens, and we also went up to Thessaloniki.
Oh, shoot.
I'm just going to go through one more thing, and then we're going to end it. Whoops. Let me just do this again. Sorry. Chinese book. Factories. These are the new CRRC cars in Chicago. This is Logan Square. Aesthetically, they're really nice cars. I understand there's about 40 of these in service now. This is why we're there, October 1st, 75th anniversary. We're going to end it with a couple of shots of the 4000s. Yeah, the museum bus is running too. And this will be the last shot. Stainless steel. So, all right, so that's the name of that tune.
All right. Okay, thank you, Eric. Great show. Everybody, I let you all unmute. You can turn your videos on.
Great show.
If you have any questions or comments direct to Eric, you may now ask. The next show is Friday, March 17th, and will feature Jeff Ehrlitz. Jeff, are you still online here? See if he is. No, he's not. He's left. So, anybody have any comments or questions?
Yeah, Eric. Thanks for letting us see what the Ukraine looked like before the barbaric invasion by Russia. I wish I could have seen it live.
Yeah, it's sad, but like I said, we're going to plan to go back after all this ridiculous stuff is over.
I hope to get there. Yeah. And Bob, is Jeff on March 17th show, is it going to feature Dublin?
I don't know. I was looking for the description.
I don't think so. I just
there's no description. Oh, I got you. Right. Yes. That's very good.
Yeah.
So
great show, Eric. That was a super show.
Yeah, it was really outstanding. I don't think you've shown these before. You've shown some of them, but not much of these.
The last live show that we had in February of 2020, I showed some of these.
But there's a lot of new stuff there. Yeah. You're getting a lot of comments. So Greg Katz's video is up. So he's the one. You're from Odessa?
Yes, I am from Odessa.
Okay. So I gave you Eric's email. He said he'd offer to, if you want the photos of your neighborhood, he has them. So
okay, my neighborhood is very interesting. It's called Moldavanga. Actually, it's where all the Isaac Babel story come from. And it's very interesting in trams because it's very close to the depot, which later become only service, and now there is a museum.
Great show.
I can write a whole book, but not right now.
no. Okay. Any other? So Eric, we had a high of 114 people, and really people stayed on. It was only like in the last 20 minutes or so where we started getting a drop off here. So they really soldiered along. And let me see if
to watch this show, you really had to be hardcore stuff,
but you made it very interesting, and you talked about the architecture. And poor Paul was on the phone between me and him with one member who's left, who always perennially has trouble getting onto the show, although none of the rest of the 113 people had trouble. So so he'll see the recording. So this will be recorded. And any other questions or comments?
The videos were good too. I like those.
Yeah, videos. This is the best. I mean, in the past, sometimes there's a little bit of a stutter motion, and none of it this time. The sound came out well. What most of you don't know, Eric has a particularly good high-speed connection, which I think almost no one else has, unless you're in a big office building where it's all wired up for that.
You need to be connected to the Ethernet. If you're not connected to the Ethernet, you can't do videos properly.
Right. Okay, any other comments or questions? There have been a few, Eric, that have been put in the chat. You'll see it, but it's all on the category of fantastic, interesting show. Marsha Manfredi said, thank you so much, love the architecture that was included. And I did like that you brought that up, because was it Lviv is the way it's called in Ukrainian? It's been called Little Vienna. Excuse me?
Vienna, yeah. Little Vienna.
Oh, Little Vienna, yeah.
Yeah, that's like Timișoara in Romania has been called that for Romania too. So, but I think Lviv is even more fantastic because it's a bigger city. Timișoara is quite a bit smaller. So, Mary, you have any comments since you helped out a lot on this?
I'm sad.
Yeah. Yeah, a bunch of us are going next week to a commemoration of 1 year at the Metropolitan Opera. They have a special concert right on February 24th. So Mary and I and a few others are going. Any other comments or questions before we let Eric and Mary take a well-deserved rest here?
Again, though, it was great to see not just the trams of the Ukraine, but the beautiful architecture, how lovely a country it is, and hopefully will be again. And the courage of the people that have been, I can't believe so much of the service seems to be running again, where it was stopped before. How do you get all the information, Eric?
We have connections.
You have CIA contacts.
No. We have connections.
Sources.
Once again, Eric,
You
another
know,
excellent
Mary is
show.
a fluent Ukrainian speaker, correct? And we have family there. And Mary was born here, but her parents came here in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah,
respectively.
Alan, did you want to say something?
Yes. Once again, Eric, another excellent show, very meaningful, obviously more now than ever, but your photography, your organization, presentation, just stellar, second to none.
Thank you. Next year we'll be back with the straight video show because with Zoom, my genre is video. So next year it's going to be back to all video.
Well, nobody does video like you do. I can definitely say that. Anyone else here going once?
You said the service in Kyiv was halted due to electricity issues?
The December, I got the exact date written down, the December of last year, because the power stations were being hit. They didn't have enough power for the trams and the trackless trolleys, but the metro was running. In Mykolaiv, I failed to mention, Mykolaiv, all the lines are running on 30-minute headways because of the electricity issues.
Jeez. How many you said Kyiv is the largest trackless trolley network. Yes. How many vehicles do they have or have?
629. But it goes by route length and whatnot. Kyiv is the largest. Minsk has more trolleybuses, but it's not as extensive a system. Also, in Ukraine, the longest trolleybus system in the world.
I lost you.
We lost you. Oh boy. All right. Well, that looks like.
Well, it's not Ukrainian, but in Polish, to Mary Dziękuję bardzo, which means thank you very much for a great show.
Okay. Well, I think on that note, I think we're going to shut down for the night. I think I'm going to put Eric's email address in the. Give me 1 second because it's not an easy one. So it's not as bad as trying to spell his last name, but you want to. Is he back? Oh no, he dropped out. Okay. And again, this will be out on in 7 to 10 days. So I'll give everyone a chance to write that down. Feel free to send him a note of thanks. But with that, I'm going to wish everyone good night. And I will not be here March 17th. Let me just tell him. He said, yeah, provided.
Gee, come on, Bob. What the hell are you doing?
Sending. He's call. Oh, okay. There you go. Okay, Eric.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay. So we're about to say goodnight. I just gave your email, so if people want to thank you directly, they can do that. All right, so it's Eric is on my phone. You want to wish him good night and thank you? Let's do that because I'm about to.
Good night.
Good night.
Great show.
Good weekend.
All
All right, thank you, Eric. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye. All right, good night, everybody.